24 and looking at phase changes. So phase changes are the result of an energy transfer. And when energy is transferred into or out of a sample, it impacts the particles making up that sample. It impacts their average kinetic energy, and the strength of their attractions for each other. So I'm going to write attraction strength. So phase changes are the result of an energy transfer, which impacts the particles' average kinetic energy and their attraction strength for each other. Phase changes are reversible physical changes. So let's take a look at this little diagram down here. So this little diagram here just shows a solid to a liquid to a gas, or a solid all the way over to a gas. So I like to start with the particle diagrams. In a solid, we tend to draw the particle diagram so that the molecules are touching and they show order. The complete opposite phase is the gas phase, where the particles, they don't touch and there's no organization and they just move away from each other. Where the liquid being the middle ground, the particles, they touch, but there is no order within the sample. So as a result, if you follow the arrow, like a solid changing to a liquid changing to a gas, or a solid changing directly into a gas, in this direction of following the arrows, it is an endothermic process. So I'm going to write endothermic. So energy is going into our sample, so energy is being absorbed. And as a result, ultimately, we'll start to see an increase in temperature, and if the temperature overall increases, there's an increase in the average kinetic energy, okay? But also take a look. There is an increase in the spacing and organization of the molecules because there's a decrease in the attraction strength. So I'm going to write a decrease in the attraction strength. Now, the other thing that you need to know are major words that to describe these changes. So if a solid is changing into a liquid, the most common term would say that the solid melts. If a liquid is changing into a gas, then we typically say that the liquid boils. Those terms you should be relatively familiar with. Maybe the newer term that you don't know as well, but you've probably heard of it, when a solid changes directly into a gas, totally skipping that liquid phase, we say that the sample or the solid sublimes. So let's just take a look. So let's fill in these blanks. So if we follow the arrows, the energy enters the substance, which means our sample absorbs the energy, so it's endothermic. The particles start to move faster, and they start to push apart from each other. And as a result, we see a decrease in their attractions. So there's more disorder and moving apart. Where if our change goes against the arrows, then that means that energy leaves the substance. And when enough energy leaves the substance, the individual particles start to move slower. And as they start to move slower, they start to also move closer to each other. And as a result, we see an increase in their attractions for each other. So try the practice questions down below and check your answers with your teacher.